Hi there, welcome back. Today I'm going to show you how to create this React.js navbar. And also we'll be using Sass, or more specifically SCSS, which is syntactically awesome style sheets over here. And it's just a really quite a cool way to structure and sort of use CSS. I believe it's called a preprocessor. So at the end of the day, it does sort of compile down to CSS, but yeah, it's a nicer way to write your styles. As you mentioned, we'll be using React for sort of the framework. We can use React icons as well, which is quite a cool little project. Has a number of different icons from loads of different resources. So Font Awesome, Bootstrap, you might recognize, Material Design, etc., etc. There's quite a few different ones to pick from. And then thirdly, we'll just use a font from Google Fonts as well. And I'll show you how sort of I import fonts into my different apps and websites that I create. So yeah, just quickly, here's a demo of what we'll be building. We've got a navbar sort of logo. So this is the icon that I've decided to use here with the, let's say, company name. We've got a couple of link items here. And if I scroll down on the page, you'll see when we go past a certain amount, the actual background changes. So rather than, this is actually transparent background, and then we've got a background being applied there. And if I go to, let's say, mobile view, we can see it's fully responsive. And at a certain breakpoint, when the page loads, we'll see we then get the hamburger menu, which is quite nice. I think it's about there. So tablet and down, we get a hamburger, and then the menu comes from sort of left to right. It slides across, as you could see, and then that sort of responsive sort of navbar in terms of going transparent or not is also able to be displayed. And then you can see we've got links for each of the different areas. And actually, when I click on a link, it might be a bit slow there, but the navbar did close. And it will take us to, let's say, wherever we are, but I've just set them back to home page, so I think it just did a full re-render. But yeah, so anyway, it's a simple navbar that you can perhaps add to your website or application if you need. And yeah, over the next sort of 45 minutes, an hour or so, I'll show you how to create that. So what I'm going to do actually is close down this demo here. And as I said, we'll be using React, so I do recommend sort of checking out the docs or perhaps following a tutorial if you're not aware, but we're going to use some very simple React in terms of just using a couple of hooks, so use state and use effect. And then, yeah, just a few little bits, so nothing too sort of beyond the sort of regular HTML and CSS. And then obviously for the actual CSS styling, we'll be using Sass, as I said. So I'll leave links to both of these sort of guides below if you want to check those out. But yeah, because we'll just be touching on just some of the benefits and sort of the way that I use them. But just here quickly as an example, if we were to, let's say in CSS, have our body, we set a font and a color. In SCSS, you can essentially do this in terms of color variables. And then you can reference this primary color throughout your different files. And it's really quite cool in the sense that, let's say I had this color 333 being used in a number of different locations. If I wanted to then update that, I'd have to update it everywhere we're sort of assigning this as a value. Whereas in Sass, what you can do is just update it once here, and then everywhere where you've used the $ primary color, that will update. Obviously Sass, the only difference between the two is actually there's no curly braces or is it semicolons as well, but I think coming from JavaScript I actually prefer this as a syntax, so that's why I prefer using SCSS. But yeah, that's the difference I believe between the two. So what I've got open, should be just down here, is another window. And I've just created a folder and just run npx create react app. And if I just go up, actually, I'll show you the command I did because I was already in the folder where I want the React to be downloaded into. So I just did npx create -react -app and then /. And that just creates it in the directory which you're currently in because, yeah, I didn't want another folder. So it's just a little tip there if you've already navigated or got the folder that you want open. I'm using Visual Studio Code, and again, just as an example, probably be using a couple of extensions Probably, actually, we don't need the Sass compiler because we'll be installing Sass as part of one of the dependencies. But yeah, the other one would be this one, ES7 React Redux React Native snippets. This is really handy to create, I guess, functional components or class-based components, or really anything you want is a good little plugin, and I'll show you how I use that as well. So yeah, let's get going. So as I said, we need to install Sass onto the project. So we'll do npm install Sass, S-A-S-S. So is Sass, even though we're using the SCSS syntax or version, it's the Sass sort of package that we need. So just whilst that's installing, if you've run React before or create React app, you'll sort of know you've got your node modules. So anything that's downloaded through npm should be in here. Got our public folder, which I'll sort of close off for now, but it's got icons, the logo and the index.html. And that's where, we are calling app, I believe, somewhere within here. Oh no, we've got a div with the ID of root, and then sort of index.js assigns the app to that ID. And then app.js is just rendering out a load of sort of boilerplate create React app stuff. So yeah, I should have installed Sass, and we can see that here now. So I'm using version 1.54.0, and if I do npm run start, that will run the start script, which is here, and then we should see our local development server open up in a browser window, and then you will see app.js that will be rendered to the page. But whilst that's just going, I'll let it run first, and then I'll remove all the styling. And then we'll sort of go from there, replacing that with SCSS files. So perhaps we can do that now whilst it's just opening up here. So app.scss, and then we just need to remember in our app.js to reference this new sort of import there if it doesn't do it automatically for you. So that's going. I'm sorry, it's probably been a bit slow today, but we can see it starting the development server. And that's just going to open up over here. And actually what I'm going to do is bring this over a little bit because we don't need to look at it just yet, whilst we're sort of speccing out what we're going to be building. So that is just running in the background there. Let's see. Okay, so it's still going, but what I'm going to do as well is also just rename index.css to index.scss, and again, like before, we'll update the import, the JS file of that, like so. I don't know why it's taking so long. I think my internet or actual laptop's probably running a little bit hot. Let's just see. There we go. It should open now. Cool. So if you've run Create React App before, you'll recognize once the logo actually downloads and appears, it's still loading. There we go. We can see the spinning logo, and then you've got the Learn React. As I said, that's coming from app.js. So actually what I'm going to do is delete all of this in there, and we can actually just delete that logo as well. I'm not going to do too much more with sort of cleanup. Obviously people have different preferences. I normally delete quite a lot actually from my React apps and then sort of start from fresh. But yeah, we'll just stay in the source folder, and I'm just going to create a new folder here called Navbar, just so it's all contained. Sort of the files that we'll be using are within there, and then I want one new file called navbar.js. And you can call this JS or JSX. Obviously, if you're using TypeScript, it would be TS, for example. And then I will do navbar.scss, like so. And before I do anything, I'm going to go to navbar.js. I'm going to use that snippet example. So it was RAFCE, which will be a React Arrow functional component export. That's sort of how I remember it. And if I hit enter, you'll see we get that sort of straight away, which is really quite neat. And then just want to remember to import the Sass file. So let's just do .navbar.scss like so. That should import it. And just to make sure everything is hooked up, I'm going to give this a class name of test, like so, and hit save. And then our navbar.css is going to target that class name with the dot test. We're going to do color red, like so. And obviously we're not going to see anything on the page because we haven't imported this navbar component into our app.js. So I'm going to do that here. I'm just going to do like so, and we might need to import it. Oh, spotlight manually. Let me see if I can. There we go. So sometimes on my keyboard I've done Control spacebar on the component. We can see it auto imports that component for us. And there we go. We've got our red text of navbar as from our navbar.js file. So yeah, if we remove all of that actually, just after the return statement and return a pair of parentheses, and then we're going to start speccing out sort of the navbar in terms of the different classes. There's going to be a little bit of sort of obviously HTML or JSX in terms of React. But yeah, let's get going. So we'll just do div.wrapper. And if you have Emmet installed, you can see here, this is an abbreviation. So it's basically going to create a div with a class name of wrapper, which is what I want. And that's just going to wrap the whole of the navbar. And then because we want, let's say, to be semantic, we want to do the actual nav component. And I'm going to give that a class name for now of navbar-container, like so. We're actually going to be conditionally rendering within this. So we'll come back to that later. But then we want an anchor tag with our navbar-logo, like so. And the href, I'll just put /. You can set this to wherever you want the navbar logo to go. And then also within there, we can do a p tag with React navbar. This would be, let's say, your company name or something else that you want next to the logo. So next, again, we want then a div with a class of menu-icon. So I'm going to hit enter there. And that will have an on click. And then this is actually where we're going to render sort of the different icons. So for now, I'll just put a P with the menu just there, like icon, just so we know for later. And then below that, and actually outside of the div, but still inside the nav, just going to hit enter. I'm going to do a UL, and that will have a class name of nav-menu, like so. And then in that UL, we'll do an li, and I believe ×3 for some reason isn't working for me. Normally on Emmet, I believe you can do that, but let me just do li, and then we'll do an anchor tag inside that, like so. Maybe it's, yeah, I could have then done ×3, but that's fine. I'm just gonna duplicate that down 3 times and give all of these a href, and then inside the anchor tag here, we'll just do home. This can be anything you want really, products, and then let's say contact or something, like so. Oops, there we go, contact. Okay, so just hit enter. Obviously it looks like I've got Prettier installed, so it's sort of formatting the code for us. And actually, I just realized we needed to add a load of classes to these LIs. So let's just go ahead and select all of these. So I'm using, is it command here? So sorry if I can select that. Oh, no, that's wrong. It must be the Option or the Alt key. And sorry, I've got a new keyboard. It's sort of throwing me off a bit, and also a mouse actually as well. But yeah, the class name for all of these LIs will be nav-link-items, like so. And then just hit save. And then all of the anchor tags, I want to give all of those, if I select all of those with one click holding the Alt or Option, a class name of, let's say, nav-link, like so. So that's cool. And I think that's actually all the JSX or HTML, as you can see, that we'll need. For now, we will be updating this as we go through with some on-clicks, conditionally rendering styles as well as logos or icons. But yeah, we'll come back to that perhaps in a little bit. Okay, so as you can see, it's not looking too pretty at the moment. We've got our links. There's our menu icon placeholder and React's navbar, but we probably want to actually, let's see if we can get the icons on the page. So for the icons themselves, I'm just going to search, I don't know, just any logo. Let's just see, let's just do this one. So this is the jQuery logo. So all I need to do is copy that to my clipboard. And then over here, just import in curly braces this one. So this is DI from React-icons/DI. And that will be the library that we want. But as you can see, we can't resolve that because it's not defined. So I'm just going to open another terminal here because we've got our React app running in this node one. And then we just want to do npm install or I react-icons, like so. And you'll need to do that to have access to any of these icons. As I said, I'll leave the link for this repository or sort of project in the description box below as well. And it's really quite cool. They have so many different icons. I think that is basically, yeah, the first place I check if I need an icon. But once we've done that, we should see this error go away in our other terminal over here. It just might need a second. There we go, so we've prettified it. And what we want is we want this this actual logo here to be a sort of React component almost. So if let's see, we want to go down here where our navbar logo is, and if I create that as a self-containing or self-closing component, sorry, and hit save, let's see, is it all gonna sort of work for us? And there we go, we can see, hopefully you can see this, the logo there, just below above React navbar, which is the text. Cool. So let's say that's our logo. We then want two more. So we want one for, for this example, we sometimes call it hamburger because it's sort of a stack, or just menu. And then when we click it, we also want the cross logo as well. And you can actually see they've got a nice animation. We're not going to bother with that just for now. That can maybe be a future video. So let me just type in menu. And I think normally I actually use Font Awesome quite a bit. So see if I can see that, but no, that's fine. We will use, FI, not sure which one that is, but that's fine. And unfortunately, well, one of the slightly annoying things about React icons is because we need to get it from the actual library. Oops, that needs to be in quotes. I believe if it's from a different kind of library from React icons, you have to do the / and then, like say FI or whatever precedes sort of the icon itself. So we'll do menu, and then I'm assuming there is a cross, or hopefully FI cross. Let's see. Sometimes it might be called like, I don't know, X or something else. No, let's do cross. Maybe it's just X. Okay, let's just have a look here. So FI, maybe these ones. No, don't want a color. Let's do close. So I probably should have sorted this all out before, but here we are, gr close. We'll use that, and it's also perhaps a good example of how to import different icons anyway from this library. So we'll do react-icons/gr, and that should target, as you can kind of see the folder that comes from them. Oops. Okay, and maybe it's not FI. for that one. And there is here, so let's try that. There we go. And what we should see now is everything's fine. We're not actually using these just yet, so let's do this here. So on the menu icon, I'm going to just add in both of those. Oops. So let's do fi menu as React components, and then also, is it gr close, like that. And I'm going to take off this p here, p tag. That was just a placeholder. And what we're going to do is conditionally render both of these. So let's perhaps start with that, shall we? So for that, we're just going to need some state, because we want to basically keep track of if the user has the navbar open or closed. And essentially we'll then conditionally render which icon to show. And then if they click on that icon, it should change it to the other icon. And then obviously that will close the menu as well, sort of through the CSS classes. So we're going to import useState from React here, like so. And then within our navbar component, but before the return, we're going to do const, and we're going to do click, and then set clicked. And this will be if they've clicked on the hamburger menu. Equal that to useState and open parentheses, and the initial state will be false, because when they first come onto the page they won't have clicked the navbar, so it won't have that close icon. So what I can do is grab the click here, and just down here, if we open up some curly braces, I pop in clicked, and we're going to do a ternary operator, and actually I'm just going to move that down, and then all I need to do is add in the semicolon between the two, and then actually we want this to be above, so we want it to be, if click is true, show close, otherwise show the menu, like this. So you can see initially click is false, so click is true, no, it's false, so show the menu, otherwise show close. So if I now click on this, it should toggle between the two. And actually it won't, because we need to add an on click. So yeah, that's of course we would. Let's see. So on the menu icon div, we'll just do an on click. Oops, on click. And I'm going to set that equal to, let's see, handle click, like that. And then just above here, I'm going to do const handle click, and that's going to be an arrow function. And then we're going to just basically set clicked to the opposite, so sort of the exclamation mark or a bang click, and then that's basically doing the opposite of it, and it's setting it, and then that will change what we display in the UI here. So if you remember, it starts off as false, so that's showing the FI menu. If I click it, it's going to run it through this function, fire that off. It will then, because it's false, it will then set clicked to true. It will update this to close, and that's what our new state of the button will be. So you can see that is working there nicely. Cool. So that's just, you know, a very brief introduction to useState and how we're using it within this sort of this section. The other bit I want to do was some more sort of useState for whether to show the nav or not. So I'm going to do const show nav, and then we'll do set show nav, and that will be equal to useState, and again that will be false, because initially we don't want to show the navbar. This is when it's in mobile view. So let's see, we then also want to let's have a look here. So yeah, we on the actual navbar itself, we want to use the show nav sort of state to determine what class to show here. So I'm going to do show nav, like that, and that will also be a ternary operator. And if that is true, we just want to show the navbar container, and then if it's false, we want to actually do navbar dash container, and then also active. You can call this anything you want as like the secondary class, but it's just what I'll be using in the CSS or the SCSS, just to know if show nav is false, what do we want to to show to the user, and vice versa. And that will become clear as we're going through now. Yeah, so that is the show nav. We've got our on click here. The only other thing is that we will want to have on clicks for the let's see, for all of the links as well. So when we click on a link, it's going to go off, let's say, to the part of the page or another div somewhere else or another section of your website. But actually, I want that to have its own on click. So all of these LIs here, I'm just going to do that, click it whilst holding Alt. I'm going to do on click, and this is going to be equal to handle close mobile menu, like that. So it's obviously not going to apply normally, but we just want it on click, close the mobile menu. So I'm going to do const like that as an arrow function. And we want to set clicked again, but we want to actually just set it to false this time. Oh, sorry, it will be set show nav to false, like that. And that should then close the mobile menu, which will be conditionally rendering with these classes, well, this class up here. Okay, so that's all looking quite good. What I'll do is I'm going to come back to the other hook that we'll be using, use effect, setting some state as well, whether to show the nav or not, because that will be useful for when we add some scroll to the page, because at the moment, the user can't scroll there. And anyway, let's go and sort of style this up. As we can see here, it's not looking too good with all the default styles and everything like that. So let's go ahead and update all of this. So just before we do that, in our app.scss, I'm just going to highlight everything and delete and hit save, and then also index.scss as well. I'm just going to do the same. So you can see here, we sort of reset everything, but you can see actually there is still some margin and or padding on the page. So what I'm going to do is a global reset inside the index.scss file, and that will be margin of 0, padding, let's say 0, and box dash sizing, border box like that. Sorry, laptop's been a bit slow. And once that reloads, we can see everything is now up and to the left, and it's looking a little bit better. So that's generally the reset I do. I know there's sort of normalize and sort of other CSS resets you can do, but that's just the very basic one. And actually, just for later as well, we want to set some height on the body. So let's just give this, let's say 500 view height, just so there's some room to scroll up and down the page. So there we've got some scroll now for when we come to conditionally render whether to show the nav or not. Okay, and actually just to make this a little bit easier on the eyes, I'm just going to give this the whole body a background of, let's say, RGB, and I'm just going to do 80, 80, 80 like that, which is sort of a dark grey, I believe. So when that reloads, there we go. And whilst I'm here as well, actually, I'll show you how I add in Google fonts. So all you have to do is go to fonts.google.com, find a font that you like. There's sort of different options and categories, and there are selectors. As you can see here, I've got one that I've already selected from before. You can use the link, let's say in your HTML tag, HTML sort of file or somewhere else, but I actually just like to use the import and not the style, or the actual import itself. And what you can do is you can just pop this in your CSS file, or SCSS in this case, and this will import the Lato font with the weight 300 and 400, and then you can just grab that font family and pop that, let's say, right on the body of your HTML, and then if I go back, it's now updated with that, which is quite nice. So generally I put all my imports at the top, so I'm just going to do that, and then we've got our CSS reset, and then it sort of cascades down like so. And then perhaps I'll just set the text color to white, and you can see here, obviously that's not updating everything. obviously setting the body color to white, but that's fine. We will be going through them later. But already perhaps it's a good sort of case to add in two color properties, right? So if we're using those later, or certainly within this file, if you remember what I showed you before, at the very start it was the $, let's just say primary sort of background, and then if we set that to this RGBA value over here, so if I cut it from there, pop it there, we can then reference this variable name in our SCSS like so. And if I hit save, you'll see we've still got the same background, but now if I am using this in multiple areas or different files, I just update it once and we're all good to go. And actually I'm just going to take off the color white. We'll be using that. I'll add in some more of these variables in our actual navbar file. So yeah, let's see. That's fine, that's fine. So yeah, I'm going to close down everything that we don't need. And if we go to our navbar.scss, if you remember we've got this test that I did earlier, we'll remove that and we'll get started on the styling of the actual navbar itself. So the development server is still running, so we should see everything update in real time as we're hitting save here. So to begin with, I'm just going to do .navbar-container.active. And if you remember, this is the active class that will be toggling between that and navbar container. And then this one, a background -color of transparent, and we'll give it a transition of all 0.5 SEs, and this will become apparent sort of, you'll be able to see this a bit later, but yeah, I just wanted to get that out of the way. And also let's just do a couple of variables here. So we'll do primary, let's just do that as white for now, then also secondary, and we will do that as RGB, and what did we do, was it 80, 80, 80, like that. I just need to add like so. So there's examples of sort of the color variables. Like so. And then yeah, we can use those now throughout the app. So let's see. So we'll do .navbar-container. And I'm going to actually start doing some nesting now. So yeah, everything is actually going to be in this navbar container. I just realized we probably don't need the wrapper, so I'm going to take that off, and then I believe actually it's everything within this nav, which it is, so I can actually delete this wrapper div because we've just got the nav as the main component now. So that's cool, that cleans things up a bit. So navbar container, we're going to give this a background-color, and we're going to reference our secondary value, like so. And you can see here VS Code has the auto completion, so you don't have to remember almost all of the different color variables. If you sort of remember roughly how you've structured them in terms of like primary, secondary, etc., you can access those quite nicely. So we're going to give it a position of fixed, and this is the navbar container, if you're not aware. So we're going to do top of 0, left of 0, width we want 100%. Do height, let's do 60 pixels. So that's how high from the top of the page it's going to be. We'll do display flex. So these are then now controlling the items within there. So as you can see, things have started to move. We've got our li elements moving around. We'll do justify content space between, sorry, not around, between, like that. If I keep hitting save, you can kind of see how things are shifting. We're going to do a Z index of 1, just because I want it to, let's say, always be in front of the background or any other content that I might have. You might need to adjust that depending on what else you've got in terms of sort of height positioning on the page. Padding of 0 and then 2 rem, so that's 0 top and bottom, 2 rem left and right. So you can see here everything sort of moved in a little bit, and then a transition of all, so that's 0.5 S ease. And again, these transitions will become apparent later as to sort of how they look. Okay, so that's our navbar container done. And obviously it's not looking too good still, but you can see here now, rather than creating a separate class like this and then doing another class, for example, and sort of structuring your CSS like that, one of the benefits, and I think one of the main ways that I like working with Sass, is to use their nesting. So because this navbar container is this nav here, anything inside here in terms of elements or class names, or IDs, of course, we can target those within here now as well. So it's a really nice way to sort of structure your CSS in the sense that I now know if I'm looking at any class, let's say within here, and this will become more apparent as we start to create more styles, it's all going to be within navbar container, and then I just need to find navbar container, and then it will be somewhere within here and not, let's say, somewhere else further down the file. So let's do now the navbar dash logo, and as I said, this is inside a navbar container, so it's the nesting. I'm going to give this a color of primary, so primary, color of primary, cursor pointer, so that just changes the default cursor. So now if we hover over it, you can see we've got the pointer rather than the sort of the arrow, I guess. I'm going to do text decoration none, and that should get rid of that default underline because it's a link effectively. I'm going to do font size of 1.5 rem, display flex, we'll do align items center, so hopefully align centrally along that axis, and then also a gap between the two items of, let's say, 0.5 rem, like that. And there we go, we can see we've got our sort of icon and I guess sort of headline or company name, for example, and they're centered horizontally, just using display effects and then a small gap between the two there. So that's our navbar logo. So outside of that, but within navbar container, we can target the menu dash icon, which, if you remember, is this one where we've got our state and the on click working, and we actually want to set that to display none for now. You can also do sort of visibility hidden, I think, as well, but I believe display none is sort of better in terms of sort of accessibility. But yeah, I might need to check that. So let me know if you sort of have any more thoughts on how to not display something in the DOM effectively, but then we do need to display it when we want to show that mobile menu, which we'll be doing later. So yeah, anyway, we'll go to the nav-menu now outside of this, but as I said, within navbar container. And just having a look, our nav menu is this UL here with all of our links, and then inside there are our anchor tags. So nav menu, we want to display that display flex like so, align items center, and you can see these are now updating as we go, so you can see it's centrally aligned within that 60 pixels height. We'll do justify content center as well, and then a gap of 1 rem here, like that. Okay, probably can just move this over a little bit and then bring the menu slightly more into view. So there, gap of 1 rem. So then we want to target the .nav-link, I believe it was called, and these are the li elements within there. Oh no, this is actually the anchor tag. So yeah, let's just target that. And again, we'll do color. We'll target that primary color that we want, so the white. Display flex, do justify content center, align item center, text dash decoration none. So that's going to get rid of the bullet points and the underline, hopefully, as well. That exists on the li. Perhaps not, but let's see. We'll do padding of 0 top and bottom, 1 rem left and right, so you can write that sort of shorthand like so. Height, we want 100%, and then the font dash size will be 1.25 rem for these ones. And actually it looks like the nav menu, what we can do is do that nav dash menu dash, is it links, I believe? Nav link items. Let's grab that class instead. Let's put that over here. And perhaps this is where we can do our text dash decoration none. And I think that should get rid of the bullet points. It doesn't. And then what I'll do is just move up the nav link there. I'll just check we've got that right. Nav link, yeah. Let me try that on nav menu. No. Okay, let's have a look. So a bit of CSS debugging. Well, let's go to the inspect tool. We haven't gone there yet. And let's just have a look at what this is and sort of where it's coming from. So I'm just using the inspect element. This is the nav link items marker. So nav link items. We are doing text decoration none. Let's just color them red just to make sure I am selecting them correctly, and that's true. Interesting. Oops. Okay. We'll come back to this perhaps. Just trying to see li. Have I done everything correctly? Nav link items. Yeah, that shouldn't be displaying, but as I said, we'll come back to it once we've finished off the rest of the styles here. So just under nav link, what we can do then if we want a hover state for these is do an ampersand, colon, and then hover. And this then allows us to, add, let's say, hover to the site. So I'm going to give this, we don't have many colors, I'll just do secondary here, and then transition between the two would be all 0.3 SEs, just as an example. And now you'll see if I hover over these links, oops, just take off that inspect element. That is only targeting the dots on the side of it. It's interesting. I'm just trying to see actually if I take that out, does that look any better? Okay, interesting. So what I'm going to do is actually bring that back in. I'm going to move up the color to that and then move down text decoration to nav link like so. I think that should solve it, or at least I thought it would. And let's hit enter. No. Nav dash link dash items and then nav link. Nav dash link dash items, then nav link. And let's just give nav menu also text decoration none. Just trying to still work out why that is. Not too sure why that would be. That's the hover effect on these. Yeah, I want it on these ones. Let me bring that down again, the color, so at least it's on those. And then nav link items, I'm gonna just remove that from here. Okay, anyway, we'll come back to this later, as I said. So then in terms of the navbar, so that's essentially it for desktop, as we can see here. Obviously we'll work out how to sort out the icons So yeah, I'm hovering over all of them. Interesting. Nav link. Nav dash link. Okay, anyway, we'll come back to it, as I said. But as you can see here, as I was going down into mobile view, it's, things are crossing over, it's getting a bit crowded. So actually now we want to build the mobile sort of version of that. So yeah, this is going to be still within the navbar container, but outside of everything else. So there's the navbar container sort of closing bracket, and we can see that if I close this off here. So it is the very last one, but just above this purple one here, might be different for you depending on your color scheme. But I'm just going to do a media query here. So we'll do media, we'll do screen, and a max width of, and we're going to give this 768 pixels, and that's generally what I would define as tablet and then plus. Or in this case, obviously tablet down will be the mobile view, and then we're going to target that menu dash icon, which we set to display none. This we want to now display as block. So a block element, position will be absolute. We'll do top 0, left 0. We're going to do a transform and then translate, and then it's going to be minus 100% and then 60%. And then, sorry, this is actually top right, so we want that in the top right hand side of the page. And if I just close that, we can see here we've got our mobile menu on that top right hand side here, and it's still working on click and all of that, which is great. Just need to make it a bit bigger, so font dash size, let's do 1.5 rem. Let's do a color of primary, like so, and a cursor of pointer. So there we go. We can see that's nicely positioned, sort of, yeah, within the sort of the parent element. I could give it 50%. I think it might be a bit more central, but yeah, I don't know. This is what I just had before, and I sort of do use this navbar quite often if I need sort of just a quick navbar that's responsive. So still inside the media query, but outside of menu icon, we want to do .nav-menu.active and open up those curly braces, and we'll give it a background of secondary. And as you can see, it's so quick to type just primary, secondary, all the different colors. And then obviously, as I said, you can then change that if I want to, and it will just update all the references we've made to it so far. But yeah, so when we are in, this mobile view, and I'll just check that we are actually in there, which I think it should be. Obviously at that point, with tablet down, so let's bring that over. We want the flex direction to be column. So we already have flex on the nav menu, but the nav menu.active will apply these classes now. So we'll do a width of 100%, oops, like that. Height of 100 of view height, position of absolute, top 60 pixels to account for the 60 pixel navbar that we've got, and then a left of minus 100%, so it's fully off the page. Opacity of 1, opacity of 1, and then transition, we'll do all 0.5 seconds ease, like so. And again, this will be more apparent as we go on, but if yeah, we haven't got it sort of hooked up just yet, perhaps. So yeah, that's nav menu, and sorry, that's actually just meant to be the nav menu here, not the active version. So let's do that. And there we go. We can see it's now left 100%. If I take off that class, I think it will then show where it sort of is on the page. But yeah, left is minus 100%. So that's the default for when nav menu isn't active. And then if I do .nav-menu.active, like so, we want the background also to be secondary. So maybe that's not needed here. but we'll do left of 0, opacity of 1, transition all, 0.5 seconds ease, and then a Z index of 1. Again, just want to make sure that it's always on top of the page. And actually, sorry, this opacity can be 0. So it starts off at 0, and then when it's active, it will come into view. Obviously, we just need to hook all of that up still. So yeah, within there, the nav menu.active, so with the nesting, we'll do nav-link-items. We want to give them a padding of 2 rem top and bottom, 0 left and right, and just a width of 100%, just so that they come across the whole width of the page. And let me just see, perhaps whilst that, why is that not working? Nav menu.active. Of course, so we haven't actually hooked it up. So actually, I'm just going to take a quick break and let's do that now. From our, obviously, break from our CSS. So on the UL, we want to toggle the class whether it is clicked or not. So let me do that. So we wrap that in curly braces. We'll do a click, and ternary operator, and then this is going to be nav menu active, and then else outside of the string there, we'll just do nav dash menu like so. And there we go. So we're going to fix all this up, but now if I click on this, there we go. We can see our elements slide into view and then go away. So that's quite nice. So navbar.scss, we're just going to go back and finish off some of the styles. So let's see, navlink items. We also want a hover effect on those. So and :hover. Give them a background. Well, it is secondary, but I kind of want to change that a little bit. So little tip, I believe it will work here on VS Code, so it doesn't actually, but let me just go to the very top where we're defining the secondary value. If I just grab that, and actually let's just make it sort of, yeah, secondary background, just as an example. What you can do is hover over the little thing here and use the color selector. So I just want to basically, oops, if I can do that, give it just a slightly lighter color. So let's just say something like that. Let's try and get it all the same. It's 103, 103, 103 for RGB. Oops, let's give that the right sort of wording here. And if I grab that class, go down to the bottom, secondary background, hit enter. When we hover over now these nav link items, hopefully we should see the background is just slightly different to the other background here. And why is that not working? Oh, there we are. So there you go. You can see we've got the hover effect now coming across the full width, and there's the margin top and bottom. Of course, when we want actually cursor pointer on those, and then that will give us the nice cursor that we want. And then the last thing is just after the hover, but still within nav-link-items, we want to do nav-link. And again, perhaps these will do padding of 2 rem top and bottom, 0 left and right, font-size. So again, there's, as you can see, spacing internally, but also spacing between them. So font size will do 1.5 rem, and then actually that was the UL I think we gave the cursor pointer to, or no, navlink items is the LI and then the A in there. So yeah, I guess it's sort of up to you where you want to add that, but that looks fine to me. You know, it seems to work well. And if you remember, if I click on home, well, it is going to refresh. We don't have any routing, but you can see it does close that mobile menu. So there's obviously, you can close it manually, or you can click the link here. And obviously if we set, let's say, React Router up or something else, that would just slide out and you'd go to your page or the section on the site here. Cool, so I think that's pretty much all the styling done. What I'm going to do now is just do the use effect. So if you remember, what is quite nice is that for mobile or for desktop, when we have the menu here, and if I scroll down a certain amount, I just want the background of the nav bar to change color. So we're going to do that now. So for that, we just need to import another hook called use effect, like so. And then just down here, we want to call use effect. So this one is just use effect, and I've got a snippet here from the extension, and it gives us our first return, with the second and then a third, which is the dependency array. I'm not going to bother sort of explaining too much about it all, but essentially use effect fires on initial page render, and then any variables, let's say, that you put in the dependency array, the use effect will fire again, let's say if some data updates or something like that. But for our purposes, we're going to just do document dot add event listener, and we want to listen for the scroll event, like so. And then the second argument to the add event listener is going to be a callback function or arrow function here. And then in there, we want to set show nav to false. And actually, we want to do a bit more than this, but I'll just show you what this does so far. So if I show nav and start to scroll, we should have set show nav to false. Let's see. Okay, in that case, let's continue on. So we don't want to actually do that. What we want to do first is have an if statement. So we want to do check if window dot scroll y. So if the window has scrolled, this is now vertically on the y-axis, more than 100 pixels, we want to actually set show nav to true. So we want to show the nav, we want to show the nav bar as it is, else we'll just set it to false. And of course you can do this as a ternary operator, and maybe actually I'll refactor that now. So let's just see, we would do this, we can take all of that out, we'll do something like this, set show nav to true, and then else, like that, and we'll do false, like so. And then we can get rid of that one. And I think if I hit save and enter, actually all of that, like so. No, we do need, sorry, what am I doing? Just trying to work out all the braces and everything. So yeah, sorry, it's here, I believe. Or not. Looks like we need one more of these. No. Let's see, set show nav. So we've got that one, we've got this one, then we need one more. Oh no, we need that and then that. There we go. Cool. Well, I guess that's kind of actually done the same thing there in terms of the structure, but I don't know if we've saved much. So let me just reset all of that. And I'm just going to check that we've created everything else that we need to. Let's see, let's just refresh the page here. It might have lost its styling. There we go. So now if I scroll down on the page, after 100 pixels, we should have seen it pop in, but it hasn't. So let me actually just go back and keep in the if statement, because I know that was working before. Like so. And actually I know what the issue is here. It's obviously we haven't set the show nav on here, or have we now? I know we have actually. Navbar to container active. Nav menu active. Yeah, that all looks good to me. Just checking our navbar.css all works. There's no errors in here. And just check I've spelled everything correctly. There's no squiggly lines. So so that's when it's active, it's transparent. So maybe actually I need active over here, but I'm not entirely sure. Let's see. Let's go full screen. No. Interesting. So we need to spend a bit more time looking at this. I'm going to change that back. It might be there's a blaringly obvious mistake in the styles that I've made that I can't see right now. So I'm just going to sort of do a like-for-like comparison. So let's see, show nav, and then we've got show nav here, use state false. Let me just sort of do a hard reset on all of this, like so. Okay, I must have sort of messed up the style somewhere. So let me have a look. So perhaps it's due to the nesting of everything. I just want to check everything is all correct. Navbar-container.active, that's fine. Navbar container, and that should contain everything, which I believe it does. Yeah. And we've got our nav logo, menu icon, nav menu, nav link. Yeah, and hover. So one of the things I can see already was that should be here because the hover was meant to be on the nav link. That's not the issue, but as you can see, sort of made some mistakes as we went. And media, menu dash icon display block. Yeah, minus 100% and 60%. That's fine. Menu icon and then nav menu. Maybe I do need to add display flex here. No. Position absolute. That's all fine. Maybe the opacity is also not showing up properly. Nav menu dot active. That's all okay. Navlink items, yeah, a hover on that, navlink, and well, we could have a hover as well. That's strange because yeah, it all looks absolutely fine for me. Just trying to work out what we've done wrong here. I wonder if it's our logic. So let's have a look. So we've got the handle click, the close mobile menu, I'm just trying to work out set show nav to true, else false. We are listening for the scroll event and there's nothing in the dependency array. So what I'm going to do is just do a console.log. We'll do show nav, and just check whether this is sort of true or false at the time of scrolling, I guess. So let's see here. Console says all true. It's still true. And then if I bring it down to the bottom of that, are we updating things correctly? Let's see. True, 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 true. If I get to the top, is it false? No. Interesting. Set show nav. Yeah, I'm not actually too sure where I've done wrong, or gone wrong, sorry. trying to figure it all out on the fly, perhaps not the best, but essentially you get the idea. And I think perhaps maybe that's a challenge for yourselves to see if you can figure out perhaps where I've gone wrong in the CSS here, or the SCSS perhaps as well. And yeah, figure out if you can how to get the navbar to change, but depending on the scroll. And then also actually this one, which was another little bug, and again I'm not too sure where that's come from, but let me just see if I can fix that in a minute or so. And then if not, that can be a bit of homework for yourselves. But otherwise I'll certainly be leaving the GitHub repo in the description box below, so you can feel free to check it out and sort of use it as you wish. But yeah, so these are the navlink items, and we've got nav menu. Yeah, so navlink items, each one for some reason has a marker. So navlink items, let's see, navlink here. And maybe just nested in there .nav dash items. Text decoration none. And actually, sorry, this should be outside, or not inside this, but in nav menu. And then if we wanted to keep the nesting, we can move that all the way down for the hover of the nav link. And let's just refresh the page and see if that does anything. If not, I think I'll have to leave it for today. But yeah, it's a strange one because yeah, I'm not too sure where these markers are coming from. And yeah, so I guess, well, let me know if you do manage to figure out those two little bugs that I guess I'll leave in as, yeah, I'm just trying to still work out what's going on. Okay, no, we'll leave it for now. But anyway, as I said, hopefully you can find some value in the tutorial, and you can see here we do have a responsive menu, and it's looking quite nice in terms of how everything's laid out. It's really quite simple, and hopefully gives you a brief overview into Sass as well. So yeah, let me know in the description if you did manage to figure out either of those things, those little bugs there. Feel free to drop any links as well to your projects that might be using the navbar. I'd sort of be happy to see them. And of course, if you've got any other questions, feel free to reach out. I'll be happy to help. But yeah, I will see you in the next one. So thank you for watching, and good luck.